Today, I want to talk with you about negative emotion. As empaths, as highly intuitive, highly sensitive, and spiritually minded people, we can often look at negative emotion, such as anger, as negative, right? As something that we want to resist, something that is not okay, something that is not spiritual, even. But that is not entirely true. And today I want to make that distinction that sometimes negative emotion can be a powerful agent of positive change. So if you have been feeling like you're fed up with something or someone, or if you've been feeling like you have just had enough, right? You're done. That's an indicator that something needs to change. Negative emotions help us to know when boundaries are being crossed, right? So, like an emotion like anger, when we feel anger that is warranted and appropriate versus a triggering kind of anger that is connected to past events that are not relevant for a present situation. When we have appropriate or warranted anger, usually that is an indication of some type of infraction, right? A boundary being crossed. Maybe someone was disrespectful, or maybe they were abusive, right? Or perhaps even you are not choosing to live up to your own expectations or your highest potential. Those types of situations can cause a negative emotion such as anger to arise in your experience. And it doesn't mean that you haven't done spiritual work, right? It doesn't mean you haven't come far in your journey. Sometimes it means that a change needs to be made. I know it can be tempting to ignore that negative emotion, resist it, push it down, pretend it isn't there, minimize it. But usually all that does is prolong that negative emotion. So if we can be courageous and look at that situation which caused that emotion, and then look at what are some of the changes, right? Just get curious about what are some of the changes that I might be able to make to prevent this from happening in the future, right? So it might be setting the situation up a different way. It might be breaking contact with a specific person. Whatever that looks like, as long as you're open and curious about what that solution could be, then you will remove yourself from that future pain and negativity. So that negative emotion is really not meant to be something that stays around, right? So we could look at it as spirit's way or the universe's way of redirecting you to a more positive, more aligned path, right? So when we are feeling that negative emotion, such as anger, we know that we're not aligned, right? So now, how can we move into that place of alignment, right? We look at where we would feel empowered. We look at where we would feel that sense of truth and alignment, and then we make a decision from that place. And sometimes it causes big changes to happen, and sometimes it's just a little tweak that we need to make. But those changes cannot happen if we are pushing away that emotion just because it is negative. All right. So again, when we feel the negative emotions, usually it's an indicator that some change gets to happen soon, right? And whether or not we listen to it is always our choice. But if we look at the flip side of that, when we have positive emotions, right, we want to move in that direction. And again, that is the universe's way of saying, this is the way. This is where you're going to be the best version of yourself. So let's have more of that positive emotion. But when the negativity shows up, it does not mean that you haven't come far in your spiritual path or you haven't done the work that you've been doing, right? It simply means that sometimes there can be situations that actually are causing real and appropriate anger or whatever the emotion is. And so if you can see it as that catalyst for positive change, then you won't be stuck in it. So I encourage you to listen to the negative emotions, check in with yourself and see if they are in fact warranted. And if they're not, maybe there's some healing that gets to be done. But a lot of times people question themselves when they have a negative emotion such as anger because it just gets this negative rap, right? It's kind of like it's not okay to be angry, but it absolutely is okay and healthy to be angry in certain situations, right? And as empaths, it is part of our path to really stand up for ourselves first and foremost. I think that that's a big part of our path is just being true to ourselves. Listen to that negative emotion and make the changes that are necessary for you to be the best version of you and to let the rest go. I hope this has been helpful, and I will see you next time.